Hello, teachers. This is week 10, right, for primary 2, term 3. For this week, there are 3 books, and then there will be a test given to them. Sounds like a lot, but it's actually quite straightforward, so they should be able to do this easily. And I would suggest that for the first 3 books, you might want to just perhaps give them the last 4 to 5 pages as homework, right? Because I would like them to focus on doing the test instead. Okay, so the first booklet, as you see here, is on making a whole, right? So idea here is to get them to understand how many parts out of the whole, right, will make the whole. So this is actually quite straightforward. Earlier on, we used the analogy of the pizza, right? You cut your pizzas into 8 slices, okay? And then the fraction of it, right? The selected part is 1 out of 8, 2 out, depending on how many parts are selected. So the total number of parts, right, that make up a whole will be 8 out of 8, right? So 8 out of 8 makes 1 whole pizza. So you can use this diagram to show them, right? So it's actually quite straightforward, right? 7 out of 8, right? If you take it out, then, you know, 7, if you take 1/8 of the pie, right, then 7 out of 8 is left, because in total there are 8 parts, okay? So here, the concept of addition and subtraction of fraction, what will be taught later, right? But for now, it's just to get them to think about how the whole is being made up of. So for this example here, okay, you have 4 out of 9 that is shaded, and then 5 out of 9 that is not shaded. So 4 out of 9 plus the 5 out of 9 would give you 9 out of 9, or 1 whole. And you can get them to think about different ways of making 1 whole as well. So if you tell them that you don't use 4 out of 9 and 5 out of 9, what can you do? Examples, it can be 1 out of 9 and 8 out of 9, right? It can be 3 out of 9 and 6 out of 9 as well. And then get them to do the guided practice. Okay. Okay, how many parts makes a whole? So this is actually quite easy. Okay, and then I would say skip to perhaps onto page 9. All right, so explain this again. Okay, 3 of the parts that are shaded, 2 out of 5 of the parts not shaded. Add them together, you make the whole. Okay, and then get them to do maybe 1 question on their own. All right, so here they have to decide how they want to do it. It's up to them, right? They can choose 1/4 of the figure. Sorry, it's not 1/4. What I mean is 1/7, right, of the figure, or they can choose 2 out of 7 of the figure, but they have to come up with the corresponding fraction to make the whole. Okay, if you find that they are not too sure yet, then you can actually get them to do further practice on page 11. Okay, then we move on. Get them do questions on page 18. All right. MN, right? So same thing, right? You need to understand the idea. So this brings back to the earlier topic, right? When they learn in, I think, even in P1, right? Which number plus 5 equals 1 whole, right? So the 1 whole, they got to know that it is actually 12 out of 12, right? That 1 whole is 12 out of 12. Okay. So in order for them to get the answer, right, then they need to know which number out of 12, right, or fraction out of 12 plus 5 out of 12 equals 12 out of 12. So you can do 12 minus 5. Okay, so some of them may have a slight problem doing this, right? So it's important for you to go through this with them. So just remember them what is 1 whole. 1 whole is when the numerator and the denominator is the same. Okay, all right. Now next, we have this question here, right? Look at each given fraction of a figure. Circle the correct figure that shows 1 whole. So here it is 1/2 of the figure. So this means 1 part, 1 out of 2 parts. So that means the whole must have 2 parts, right? Do another one with them. If this is 1 out of 6, the whole would have 6 parts. Okay, the whole would have 6 parts. Some of them may get confused thinking that this is 1 out of 6, and then what they're supposed to select is 5 out of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? All right, some may confuse as that. Okay, but you have to tell them the question here is which is 1 whole of the figure, right? Which is 1 whole of the figure that we see here. So figure here is 1 part. So they need to find whole means that there are 6 parts there. Okay, and that's it for making a whole. All right, next thing we have is adding like fractions. Okay, so this is once they understand the idea of making a whole, this should be quite easy for them. Okay, you might want to take them, you might want to go through this with them first. So if the pizza is cut in 8 equal parts, Ani take 1 out of 8 and Leah takes 2 out of 8. What fraction of the pie did they take in all? So it's 1 out of 8 plus 2 out of 8. Okay, so 1 out of 8 plus 1 out of 8 parts plus 2 out of 8 parts equals to 3 out of 8 parts. Remind them that they cannot add the denominator, right? Because the denominator is still referring to the same total number of parts. Okay. And then after that, do the guided practice with them. Okay, remind them, right? When the numerator and denominator is the same, it is also equals to 1. Okay. Although because the teacher has, if let's say the question has already got a divider here, so they cannot write it as 1. They need to write it as 3 out of 3. Okay, next, I think some of these guided practice are quite easy. You might want to get them to do a few, but I would suggest getting them to do, for example, page 8. Okay, so add 1 out of 5 to 2 out of 5. So they have to write 1 out of 5 and this is 2 out of 5. Then have to express the fraction the equation here, and they get 3 out of 5. All right, so at least one question here. And then perhaps bigger number on page 13. All right, bigger parts, 3 out of 12 plus 5 out of 12. Okay, so important for them to do these questions. This is to prep them for drawing fraction bar model in future as well. Okay, and then we do question 14, color half of the bar blue, color 1/2 of the bar red. If they don't have blue pens or red pens, it is okay. All right, you can just tell them, just imagine that you're that one side is shaded, one side is not. Right, or they can use pencil and then pen as well. All right, so half plus half, what is it? It's 2 out of 2, or they can write it as 1. Okay. And I would suggest maybe get them to do the next question on their own. Okay, get them to do the next question on their own. And then after that, it's important for them to read the instructions. So if they do the instructions right, it should be fine. Okay, so usually if they get it wrong, right, it's because they don't read the instruction properly. Okay, and then perhaps one question on page 20. Okay, this is a recap of what it means by 1/5, 3/5, right? 6 9s, 2 9s. Okay, so they have to write the numerical fraction down. And that's it. Let's move on to in-pen practice for addition of like fractions. So some of these questions, right, are, and yeah, I found them a bit repetitive. So you may just, pick a few on your own to get them to do. I would suggest perhaps page 6. Right, get them to do J and K. Okay, then after that, these are actually quite simple, right? The independent practice, but maybe they just get them to do at least one. So maybe page 10, W and X. Okay, so this one, another question they can do as well. They have to write the fraction in, right? So add 2/5 and 3/5, it means 2 out of 5 plus 3 out of 5. Okay. All right. So here you might want to take them through. Jen was given this question. All right. Why? And then she did it as that. 3 out of 6 plus 2 out of 6, and the answer was 5 out of 12. So teach them how to explain why Jen is wrong. All right. So first of all, by showing them the correct answer first. Okay. So what can they do? They can actually draw the model out. All right. Or if they can explain, right, I can accept they don't draw it, but it will say that you cannot add the denominator, right? You can the denominator cannot be added together. You can do that as well, right? Go straight to the point. And this would remind them that never ever to add the denominator together. Never in any situation can you add the denominator together. All right, so I can accept if the answer is denominators cannot be added. Okay. Get them to do perhaps question 14. Sorry, page 14, G and H. Okay. Which fraction plus 3 out of 11 equals 10 out of 11? So same thing, the way, right? 10 out of 11 minus 3 out of 11, 10 minus 3, right? Or just think which number plus 3 equals 10. Okay. And then here, perhaps just 1 or 2 questions. Let me see. Put up any fractions that give the answer shown. Okay, so this is a bit more interesting. So they are supposed to come up with any fractions that will add up to 2 out of 3. Right, so perhaps to do just 2 questions with them, and I would suggest perhaps do maybe G and H, right? G and H. So H can be quite free, can be anything. Okay, and then yeah, so these are the 3 books, and then after that, this will be assigned as tests. Okay, multiplication and division test. That's it for this week's topic.